Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. So, today we are just doing a little recap on the importance of nervous system regulation. I know I've talked about this on my channel quite a few times, but I think it's good to go back and just recap the foundational things. And also, um, there are new people here, and I just want to make sure that the main points of application are clear and why I give the advice that I give. I just finished breath work, actually. I love that. Because, yes, in terms of what you apply specifically in your mindset, from beliefs to what you're persisting in, which we're going to talk about different forms of persistence tomorrow, um, the basis of how you organize yourself in terms of nervous system regulation and adjusting beliefs is the same, meaning you need to adjust beliefs, you need to take into consideration your body, and then how you specifically adjust beliefs and what you choose to persist in may differ from other people. But there is kind of foundational things where what people are applying is going to be the same to varying degrees. Okay. So I actually took a page from one of my workshops on nervous system regulation, and I just want to go over it with you guys because this is going to be where you can see kind of what you need to apply and the intensity at which you need to apply it with. Meaning, if you are very, very triggered, or if you're feeling like you're stuck, when our nervous system is dysregulated, it can materialize in two different ways, meaning we're either kind of falling back into a frozen state, okay, where we're not taking a lot of positive progression or positive actions in our life. We're feeling very overwhelmed. We are isolating ourselves, secluding ourselves, or we're overactive and we're constantly reacting, fighting, trying to kind of scramble and do tons of different things to create results, right? If you're in a very triggered space, then you may need to take a little bit more of a disciplined and consistent approach with regulating your nervous system. If you're not in that space, then you may be able to just integrate simple little things into your day that you enjoy that are not as not as much of a focus on because you're dominantly within a space within yourself that's feeling stable and secure, emotionally regulated. You're not going from highs to lows. You're not finding yourself spiraling very easily. So, I think this is something that, not a lot of people talk about nervous system regulation online, at least kind of in the manifestational realm. I think some people have started to talk about it, but it's something that I've tried to really bring as a highlight on my channel across the years from when I've been making content because it's going to be, at least in my experience and in my opinion, it's going to be very difficult to not only assume a version of yourself in a sustainable manner if you're constantly triggered, but it's also very difficult to persist and maintain those results if you're materializing tons of contradicting behaviors, intrusive thoughts, and you're doing things that create issues along the way with being able to maintain what you want. So we're going to just talk about this for a little bit today. And we're going to be doing chat Q&A tomorrow. Like I said, we're going to go over persisting. I am going to talk about different techniques because there are tons of ways in which you can persist. But my opinion in terms of persisting is when you are ready to persist with a desired outcome, you want to put yourself into a version of yourself that can succeed, right? Meaning you need to take into context where you are. If I'm trying to persist towards something that is completely in contradiction with how I'm identified and my experience, that has not been sustainable, enjoyable, fun, and it's led to a lot of anxiety, negative attachment, and obsession. By the time you're persisting and you're in that identity that supports it, it can be a pretty enjoyable technique that you engage with. You're able to entertain something and then go about your daily life with whatever you're doing, trusting that it's going to unfold and not forming a super negative attachment, feeling like you're waiting or checking or reacting or getting negatively triggered. Okay. So that's just my advice, my approach on persisting. I know people talk about persisting differently online, but I want you guys to be set up for success so that when you are going towards what you're creating, not only are you able to sustain it, but it's an enjoyable process for you. Okay. And that does relate to nervous system regulation. All right. Because in all honesty, life has challenges and that's fine. My whole approach on it is you don't want to avoid challenges or pretend you know, uh, uh, like they don't necessarily exist. It's more when a challenge pops up, you can you can put yourself into a version of yourself where that challenge doesn't trigger you. You can see it, you can respond to it appropriately, you can handle it maturely and responsibly, and also mentally be in a position of already being past that problem and creating the solution. And that that follows, right? So whatever's going on up here, you're going to handle in your physical reality in accordance to that. So if I can put myself in the position mentally where if challenges pop up, they're not negatively triggering me and I can entertain a solution, I'm going to find that I naturally take the actions and have the responses that allow for me to create that solution. I'm also creating it with how I'm being as well and attracting in solutions as well too. Okay. So uh again, with nervous system regulation though, if we are constantly getting triggered, which is fine, you're human, so sometimes things might catch you off guard, and if you don't necessarily react or respond the best way the first time, that doesn't mean it's messed up. You can obviously make mistakes and apologize and take ownership and accountability and create solutions even if you don't respond the best way. I again just think in terms of setting yourself up for success, it's a wise approach to put yourself into the position where you don't create unnecessary problems, right? Like you can get into a version of yourself where you're able to handle things in that balanced manner and things just run smoothly. Okay. And I think that should be the goal, a level of stability and security with what you're creating and how you're handling things. Again, you're not being hard on yourself or thinking that you have to be perfect, just creating that balance. All right. Okay. So, how is everybody doing in the chat though? Been listening to Psycho Cybernetics. I must be a weirdo because I'm enjoying it. You know, I think that book is so fascinating and so enjoyable, and it really is life changing if you can understand what is being said and the importance behind everything that's in that book. And it's enjoyable to me because once you really grasp the concepts and you are able to conceptualize them and then put them into practice and application, you really see like, oh wow, I can be, do, and have anything. People that create results in their life, there's nothing different between me and that person other than the mindset that they're taking on, how they view themselves, what they believe about themselves, what they believe about this area of their life, and how that's causing them to show up and handle situations and persist. And it's all something that is within our reach. We all have a mind. We all have the free will to decide who we are, what we believe, and how we organize ourselves each day. That's why I also say, like, place the focus on yourself. You can create specific results. You can turn situations around. You can create whatever you want in your life, but it's, in my opinion, not because you're obsessing over outcomes. It's because you're genuinely assuming and identifying with a version of yourself that can create that outcome. And then you're able to entertain that and just handle whatever is in front of you. I am excited to talk about persisting tomorrow too, because I'm going to bring out some kind of other documents. I was even looking over one with Adam last night, the Gateway Project on the CIA.gov. There's a little section on patterning and how if you can project something into your consciousness without trying to force it to occur, reality will reorganize itself to bring that experience in when, had you not done that, otherwise the circumstance may not evolve. So it's just really interesting to see from multiple different angles, uh, different people talking about persistence. It's talked about in psychocybernetics as well too. But I think the thing here is you want to make sure that you are in a version of yourself that can handle things appropriately and also has the identity that supports that outcome. And nervous system is a part of that. Okay. Uh, Dylan, you about to get flagged. Just give us a code word in case they get you. If we see you, say yellow in the next video. What are you talking about? Anyways, um, let's see. Uh, oh my gosh, I get it now. It's a joke, CIA stuff. Don't mind me. I can't. I was like, what are we talking about here? Um, and I feel so funny whenever I bring that up because it's like, oh my God, you're talking about the CIA. Like, it's really not like that. But, I think it's good to look at different documents like this gateway project that is on the CIA.gov website was a project conducted by the US Army in Maryland. So it's just really interesting to look at these different supporting documents that talk about these things. But let's get into nervous system regulation. Okay. Um, in my recent video on the main side of my channel, towards the end, I said you deserve to live in a body where you feel safe and confident and secure within yourself, right? And an aspect of that is your thoughts and your beliefs. Again, your automatic thoughts and your awarenesses are an instant manifestation of how you're identified. But another component to that too is your physiological state, right? And so a part of when you're shifting your beliefs, there's two things that we need to actually take into consideration here. Okay. The beliefs that we pick up over time come from repeated experiences, and they have memories and all of these different things associated with them, right? So we believe this certain thing because of this experience, this experience, this experience, this experience, right? And it is to a certain degree a protective defense mechanism in some cases, right? But those experiences also establish a state of being as well too. So if you grew up in not the best environment, or you have something extremely or something traumatic occurred to you, or you've been in a situation that's been going on for quite a bit of time, then the feeling state associated with that situation has become normalized, right? So for instance, if somebody lives in lack for a long time, or where they're not receiving a lot of affection or attention or whatever it may be, the lack of those things, the lack of the attention, the lack of the affection is normalized, right? And so as you begin to, if we want to normalize affection and these different aspects of our life, yes, we need to shift our beliefs, but we also need to start to create a space within ourselves to move out of kind of that dysregulated way of operating. Okay. And that starts with creating that level of comfort, um, safety, compassion. How do I say compassion? When I think about affection, it is kind of thought of as something externally, but you can give yourself that affection, that nurturing, right? And so that to me is taking care of your nervous system, setting aside the time to create a space where your body can relax out of the external things that you've experienced and you can start to nurture yourself. Okay. The other thing, okay, that I was talking about in terms of beliefs is when you go to shift your beliefs. So, for instance, if you're somebody that has a hard time normalizing affection, or uh, somebody being a romantic relationship being a consistent part of your life, right? And then there's tons of experiences that support that belief system and that way of identifying. Then when you go to shift into a new belief system, a part of the resistance is, okay, so for instance, the belief receiving affection is not a normal experience for me, okay? Or being, yeah, we'll just go with that. Receiving affection is not a normal experience for me, okay? Shifting to receiving affection is a normal experience for me, your mind can push against that and create a physiological response to the statement you're saying, because as you're saying this new belief, it is recalling the memories, instances, things that occurred where that was not true for you. Okay. And, at nighttime, you're addressing a lot of different beliefs. Okay. That's why I say if you are making a massive change within yourself, definitely at the beginning, do something for your nervous system morning, midday, nighttime. Okay. These are the things that we need to take into consideration, though, because in that regard, that is a sort of defense mechanism there. No, this is not true for us. You're going to get hurt if you start to believe this because of this experience, this experience, this experience, this experience. Okay. So, taking into context all of those things, okay, when you add nervous system regulation into this, you are quite literally showing your body with the practice that you're engaging with that it is safe and it is okay to start to believe these things about yourself or this area of your life. And not only that, okay, if you have normalized treatment or types of living situations that are no longer what you want to experience, okay, the act of engaging in nervous system regulation is going to begin to allow your body to relax out of that kind of lack way of operating and into a state of security and stability. So you're kind of doing two things here, okay? You're helping your body on a physiological level, okay, move through and move through the past experiences and take on new beliefs without giving a huge physiological response. And you're also helping your body relax into a new feeling state and way of operating. All right. Now, on this worksheet, I said your nervous system plays a huge role in your feeling state, which is what I was just talking about as well, too. When you are triggered, whether it be from a circumstance, memory, or sensation, the physiological effects of a fight or flight response cloud your ability to respond to challenges in a solution-focused manner, especially when making a huge change or challenging deep-rooted beliefs. Nervous system regulation is vital to ensuring you can maintain a new way of operating. So we all know how it feels to be triggered, okay? And yesterday I brought up an example of somebody doing the internal work on themselves. Their person started showing up, acting differently, saying the things that they wanted to hear. And then one little thing occurred and they kind of perceived it through the previous patterns and reacted that way. Okay. The other benefit to nervous system regulation as well is when you really cultivate a routine and habit of taking care of your nervous system, you are much better at being able to catch yourself in those moments when you kind of want to go back into previous ways of thinking or reacting. And you're able to discern whether or not the train of thought that you're having is in alignment with what you want to create, or if it's appropriate, and you have the ability to decide whether or not you want to react or respond that way. When you're not taking the time to regulate in your nervous system, you have a higher tendency to just get easily triggered and fall back into previous ways of thinking and reacting and recreating patterns. So there's tons of benefits to nervous system regulation. You're helping your mind, okay, take on these beliefs. So it's not pushing against them as much. You're helping yourself establish a new feeling state and a state that is in alignment with what you want to create. So if we want to create a secure, loving, happy, sustainable relationship, we want to cultivate feelings of security, dominant happiness, right? Like you're human, so there's going to be moments where you're not always happy. Um, Stability within yourself, right? And same thing for other areas of your life as well too. In a career, we can't just be constantly negatively reacting or assuming the worst or uh, projecting insecurities or limited ways of identifying onto the people around us and then expect to create the results that we want to create, right? So whether you're doing this for relationships, career, whatever it is you want to create within your life, when you get a grasp over your nervous system, you're going to really be able to see how you're perceiving things in the moment and how you want to respond to things and whether or not those responses are in alignment with what you actually want to create. Or if you're kind of falling backwards and getting triggered and just wanting to immediately react in ways that are not constructive and will just perpetuate previous patterns. Okay. This is extremely now, uh, I find that again, like I said at the beginning of this live stream, you really have to take into consideration yourself. So, do you need to be doing breath work 3 or 4 times a day for the rest of your life? No. But if you know that you struggle with quite a few things in terms of love or career, whatever, money, whatever you're addressing, okay, and you've identified those and you are addressing them, then at the beginning, if you feel a little bit uncomfortable or you feel your mind pushing against it, and you also notice that you are triggered all the time, you're negatively attached, and we'll talk about kind of the symptoms of a dysregulated nervous system. I know you guys see it there, okay? Then that's where you're going to want to really step in with it, okay? If you can get very disciplined with that at the beginning, it's going to save you a lot of time and it's also going to make the entire process a lot more enjoyable. You'll move through that state a lot more quickly. Okay. Now let's talk about some of these symptoms. Okay. And we're also going to talk a little bit about kind of changes that you experience too as you place a focus on nervous system regulation that are outside of what you may be specifically desiring to create as well. Okay. But symptoms of a dysregulated nervous system include depression, anxiety, PTSD, OCD, ADHD, insomnia, poor attention, poor memory, addiction, or exhaustion, right? Uh, Other symptoms include dysfunctional or violent behavior characterized by overreaction, outbursts, tantrums, anger, or underreaction, being passive, withdrawing, or shutting down. Now, a part of something that people notice when it comes to mindset is people tend to go through a glow up, right? So as they begin to adopt new beliefs and new ways of identifying and they place a focus on nervous system regulation, they start glowing a bit more. They start looking healthier. They start looking happier just in general. Their physical appearance begins to change. To me, a reason why that occurs is because when we have a dysregulated nervous system, our mind, again, our mind wants to, in my opinion, create solutions. It's gonna try to the best of its ability, find a solution to balance whatever it's struggling with, whether that's a healthy solution or an unhealthy solution. So when you place a focus on nervous system regulation, because you're now taking an active role in regulating yourself, you may notice that certain behaviors that you adopted over time begin to naturally fall off. Meaning, let's say I went through some negative experiences with my body image. Maybe I got made fun of growing up, and now I kind of have a skewed perception of myself. Okay. And maybe I get because I don't see myself as somebody that is uh, beautiful or worthy of attention or worthy of seeing myself as somebody that people enjoy and like being around because of those experiences. If I go online, maybe I see somebody that is, well liked in that manner, or maybe they have a certain body type that I want to create for myself. And maybe in that circumstance, though, from those previous experiences that I went through, that triggers me, right? Because in my perception, I'm not able to identify in that way. And in that moment when I'm triggered, I don't really know how to deal with what I'm feeling. And so maybe I'm turning to food to help soothe myself, or, drugs, maybe weed, something, alcohol, whatever it may be, to soothe that feeling that got triggered within me. Okay. This is how different behaviors materialize as a byproduct of what's going on internally that's unaddressed. And I know I just kind of explained, this is just one little isolated example that I'm giving here of something that you may be doing that's unconscious as a byproduct of your previous experiences and ways of being identified. Okay. When you begin to not only address your beliefs, but also make it a practice to regulate your nervous system, because you're taking that active role and addressing this, you should notice that those urges to engage in those behaviors that were previous coping mechanisms and ways of soothing yourself begin to naturally drop off. Okay, one, you're not getting triggered by those things anymore. But two, you're not needing to soothe yourself in that way as well either, because you've made a deliberate effort to regulate your nervous system. What am I saying here? A part of the reason as to why people tend to glow up when they do mindset work is not only are they changing in how they're identified, but if they're really placing a focus on nervous system regulation, any sort of unhealthy coping mechanisms that they picked up due to their previous experiences and ways of identifying tend to naturally drop off, because you've replaced those coping mechanisms with a new way of regulating yourself that isn't harming you per se. Okay. Now, and uh, this is also important too, because when we think about creating sustainability in our relationships or our careers, when there's an aspect of variability in our behavior because we don't know how to regulate ourselves, that's where we may do things unconsciously too that create problems in an effort to regulate ourselves. Okay. Um, and that's why even here on this worksheet, I said your romantic relationship is the physical externalized manifestation of the relationship you're having with yourself. So when we can begin to establish a very solid, secure, regulated relationship with ourselves, then we're going to find that we're able to navigate through challenges or whatever's going on in a way where we're not materializing these contradicting behaviors that don't allow for us to create that solution as easily. And this is what I really mean when I'm saying you're not materializing intrusive thoughts or contradicting behaviors. You're able to really focus your mind deliberately and handle situations in a way that is actually productive. And why? Because you're choosing to handle yourself in ways that are regulated and productive. Okay. You're taking an active role in establishing that relationship with yourself, which then allows for you to extend that and create that same type of dynamic and relationship with another person. Even if somebody doesn't have these tools, even if somebody doesn't necessarily operate this way, you setting that example is going to be so attractive. And your way of handling things and handling yourself is where a lot of the change also comes as well. Okay. Because you're not going to be feeding into people's patterns. You're going to be able to take a step back, pause, choose how you want to respond. You're going to be organizing yourself in ways that are healthy and productive, that whoever you're with is going to see that and they're going to be like, okay, wow, that was a really great way of handling that. What did you just do there? Okay. And that's where you're then also too able to create that same type of dynamic where you can grow together with somebody, right? But it's very, again, this is my opinion, it's very difficult to grow in a relationship with somebody if you're not taking that active role to grow within yourself. You really got to set the example and be what you want to experience, take on that identity. Okay. The solution. Okay, so there are a multitude of ways to regulate your nervous system. And again, you have to take into consideration yourself. So if you're in a very, very triggered place right now, then you may need a little bit more things during the day to help yourself out, or maybe even some professional help, which you'll see that I have listed here. It's all about being able to create these changes in the most sustainable and enjoyable way for yourself, right? But you guys have heard me talk about breath work. You can do cold showers, EFT tapping, exercise is another really great way to regulate your nervous system. And when you guys are doing anything like exercise as well too, really strive to go into that with the mindset that you're doing this because you deserve to take care of yourself, not because you need to exercise in order to look in a particular way. Okay. Anything that you're doing here, really, this is purely for you to feel better in your body. If you can take that approach, yes, I understand there are specific results that you're creating in your life, but you you know you'll be able to create those results as you genuinely assume this version of yourself and realize that you deserve this type of attention and deliberation and consciousness with yourself, right? Like that really comes down to how you're valuing yourself. You want people to be attentive towards you and value you and show up for you. You got to really be attentive with yourself and value yourself and show up for yourself that way. That's where those results become very natural as a part of your experience because you're setting that example, right? Like, I'm not just going to take care of myself because I want somebody to like me. I'm going to take care of myself because I deserve to take care of myself, right? And people are going to find that attractive and like me because they see there's a genuine interest in my own well-being because I value myself that way. All right. Next thing, proper sleep. Again, I tell you guys too, like this is not just me. I feel like you hear this from all different directions that you need at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. It really makes a huge difference. Okay. Especially when you are regulated, like the quality of thought that you have, your ability to handle things. Now, again, I understand some of you are in situations where maybe right now that's not possible, right? Like maybe you just had a kid. Okay, so we're getting woken up all night long. So we got to find ways to manage where we are right now. And then when that situation changes a little bit, then you can kind of place more of a priority on that. But if you have the means, okay, and the ability to get that proper sleep, then you need to prioritize that. Okay, because again, the level of clarity of thought that you have and your ability to emotionally handle things is paramount. I mean, it really is a huge difference. Okay. Kitty cat. I can't. So again, kids, I understand there could be some variability. Oh my God, y'all are so funny. But that's where, you know, I'm very strategic in my approach. So again, you can create balance in different ways. So let's say maybe I'm not able to get the most sleep right now just because the circumstances that I'm in don't permit that at this time. Okay. So maybe in that type of situation, I might be doing a little bit more breath work. And then when the situation changes, because I'm going to know and persist that it will change, then maybe now that I'm getting more sleep, I don't necessarily need to do as much breath work or whatever it may be. Essentially, what I'm saying here is pivoting and adjusting yourself in accordance to where you are so that you can create a level of stability within yourself and then adjust as those things change too. Okay. Remaining sober. Okay, we're going to talk about this. Okay. Now, I understand that people use weed for medicinal purposes, and there are certain medications that you get prescribed because they actually help with your brain chemistry. So I'm not talking about anything that you're consulting a doctor with, that you are prescribed, that is helping you maintain a certain level of normalcy within your mind and your body. Okay. If that's what you need right now to help yourself relax and to think clearly and to have a grasp on your emotional state, then those things, use that. You're speaking and meeting with a doctor, you have a prescription, you've decided that this is something that your body needs, and there's a reason for it. Okay. However, okay, again, your mind is going to try to balance itself, right? So if we grew up in particular situations that weren't that great, and maybe you picked up smoking weed at a young age, to a degree, the reason why you did that was to cope with the situation, to disconnect from the situation, right? To regulate your body. So that may not be something that's necessarily working for you. Am I saying that you have to stop doing that today, right away? No. You guys can make these changes in whatever way you see fit. Okay. Same thing with drinking. Okay. Maybe you've been in situations you didn't know how to deal with it. It was very emotionally taxing, uncomfortable in your body. And so that became a behavior that materialized to regulate yourself. Okay. Everything should be done sustainably. So I'm not saying to make massive change in your life in ways that throw you off completely that you can't sustain. If you realize there are certain things that you're doing that aren't working for you, what would begin to do is stuff for your nervous system and start to kind of wean off of it. Okay, because we want to be able to develop ways to handle situations without running from them. You can create a whole relationship with recreational things where you do it for actual like enjoyment, not because you need it to survive, right? Meaning, maybe, and I'm not advocating for anything here, okay, weed is not legal in most states, so don't think that I'm telling anybody to do anything that they should not do. But there's a huge difference between enjoying something because there's a celebration and you just want to kind of, I don't know, have a little bit of fun. And you can do that and then not think about it, not worry about it, and go without it for weeks or whatever, versus feeling like you need something every single day to be able to function and handle life. Okay. And also too, I've noticed when you are shifting beliefs, okay, let's say you're addressing things within yourself that are a little bit more deep rooted, when if your mind is kind of resisting that a little bit, then when you are not sober, some of those that subconscious resistance can kind of come through and you'll do things that you may regret, but are done to kind of prove the opposite belief. Okay. Meaning, let's say I am working on establishing trust in a relationship. Okay. And I'm regulating my nervous system. I haven't really been triggered. Okay. And I'm starting to feel better. And then I decide, you know what? I'm going to go out tonight and have a few drinks. And then when you have a few drinks, all of a sudden you're scrolling on, so, whoever you're in a relationship with, you're on their Instagram, you're drunk, you're just looking at different things. And all of a sudden you get triggered and then you start blowing up their phone because you're drunk, and just a whole set of behaviors materialize from there. Right. Whereas had you not been drinking, none of that stuff wouldn't necessarily happen. Like, why were you looking at those things, while you're out, and all these different, behaviors that materialize that kind of weren't appropriate to that situation, right? Again, your mind searches for evidences of what you believe. And so this is not to scare anybody. This is not to, make anybody feel bad. It's just being aware that you want to put yourself in the position for success. And so When you are not sober, you kind of lose that ability to really consciously control, what's going on in your mind. Obviously, you're intoxicated, you're not as lucid. And so you kind of run a risk of doing things that you may regret or engaging in behaviors that are in contradiction that feed into previous patterns that you no longer want to experience. Okay. So just be aware of that. I'm not saying that you can't have any fun in your life or that you have to be, you know, uh, like you have to isolate yourself from the world and not engage in anything. Just realize that if you're feeling a particular way with certain beliefs that you're addressing, maybe wean off, kind of start to replace that with better coping mechanisms, or don't engage with it as much. Okay. Just find a balance, is essentially what I'm saying. Okay. Don't be going through these changes and then going out every night drinking and partying. You're going to make it harder on yourself. Okay. All right. Next thing, flotation tanks, massages, yoga, stretching. There's quite a few ways to regulate your nervous system. And even on my Instagram, I have that little tools pinned section that you can see with different links for breath work, different exercises. Again, there's tons of ways to regulate your nervous system. If you want professional help, you can do something like cognitive behavioral therapy, EMDR, somatic therapy, sensor motor therapy. These are forms of therapy that are not just talk based, right? So I know a lot of people kind of don't enjoy talk therapy because they feel like they just go into a therapist's office and talk about their problems and don't really get to the root of anything. Okay. And so I think if you are going in for any sort of professional help outside of doing mindset work or what you're seeing online, go in there with a plan of action, meaning, this is why knowing these things can be useful. Hey, I've noticed with myself, I'm having a hard time regulating my nervous system. I've had these experiences and I want to shift these beliefs. Can you help me with this? We can talk about things, sure, but I don't really want to sit here and continue to talk about my past experiences. I want to take a proactive approach to becoming somebody new that can regulate themselves better and holds a better mindset about themselves in this area of their life so that they can create the results they desire in their life. I think if you can approach it that way, first off, whoever you're meeting with is gonna be like, excuse me? Or what? What did you just say? Okay, cool. You did your homework. Okay. They're gonna be happy. But also, it really is taking an active role in creating your life, right? Like being aware and having a level of seriousness to it and realizing why something is important to you that's going to help you. All right. So, with whatever you're doing, okay, when it comes to shifting in your self concept, nervous system regulation is equal to shifting in your beliefs. Okay. If you are just shifting your beliefs without doing anything for your nervous system, you're going to be triggered as fuck. Okay. Like I'm going to just say that as bluntly and as honestly as possible. And it's not going to be enjoyable for you. And I'm not trying to say that in a limiting way. I'm just being extremely honest so that you are set up for success, especially if it's things that are deep. Okay. So I know it can be annoying to sit down and do breath work. I know that it can be a little bit annoying to sit down and do EFT tapping. Okay. If you don't like those things, you can do stretching. There's other things that you can do. But setting aside those 10 minutes, 2 to 3 times a day is going to make a huge difference. Okay. Like me personally, I would not be able to have created the results that I have in my life right now, whether it be with my business, my relationship, my body, anything like that, if I did not take the time to regulate my nervous system, because I would have been a hot mess, reacting, doing things that like would have created problems. Like the importance of this should not be overlooked. Okay. Especially like for myself. And again, you have to take into consideration yourself and your experiences. But I had quite a few traumatic experiences growing up, um, in my family dynamic. And so relationships were a very tender spot for me. I had a lot of self sabotage in relationships and insecurity in terms of being able to maintain a relationship. So for me, addressing those things, okay, where it was deep, and I had like there were some points where I was doing breath work multiple times a day, not just 3 times, like more than that, because I was so triggered. Okay. And I'm not saying that to scare anybody. Okay. I'm just being extremely honest with my experience, but it wasn't like that lasted. So once you figure out what's going on and how to address it, if you can discipline yourself, you'll move through that quickly. Okay. So when I'm saying like I was triggered and I was doing breath work multiple times a day, it's not like I had to do that for months and months and months and months. It was like a week or 2 weeks. And then I ripped the band aid off. I dealt with it, right? As I'm establishing better beliefs and a level of stability materialized. So it really is just about being able to accurately identify what you're struggling with, address that, and then step in with the proper tools to help yourself embody this version of you. Okay. We've talked a lot about beliefs on the membership side. We've been talking about them, in pretty much every single video. And I've talked a lot about beliefs on the main side of my channel. The thing, we're talking about persisting tomorrow, but I just want to make it extremely clear that you self-concept is extremely important, and what you believe about yourself and what you believe about a particular area of your life, really looking at that, assessing it and adjusting it, and taking the time to regulate yourself so that you can actually maintain that identity. So you're not constantly getting triggered and spiraling and going back into previous thought patterns is going to make persisting a lot more easy, a lot easier. And again, tomorrow I'm going to talk about how the different ways in which you can persist. My whole premise here, okay, you can employ whatever technique you desire to persist, but I want you guys to think, like, to realize this correlation here, okay? And why I also say if it's simple to create what you don't like, it can be simple to create what you do like. It just comes down to how you're identified. So before knowing about manifestation, all these topics, consciousness, mindset, okay, if you were in situations that negatively triggered you, and then you got tons of intrusive thoughts, and you obsessively persisted in those thoughts, and then those thoughts became your experience, then you can do that same exact thing in the direction that you desire. Meaning, situations can serve as positive reinforcement for you that induce thoughts of what you want to experience that you're able to naturally entertain that then become your experience. So you can take the whole thing in the direction that you don't want to experience it and change it to go in the direction you do want to experience it. But that really comes down to how you identify what you believe about yourself in this area of your life. So that's why I also say by the time you're persisting, you shouldn't really have contradicting thoughts or intrusive thoughts or contradicting behaviors, because you're going to be regulated enough and in an identity that supports that outcome. And you should find that thinking that way should become natural, right? Like it's easy for me to entertain that this person really cares about me, that they love me, that they're going to show up for me. It's easy for me to entertain that I'm successful in my business, that I'm going to materialize this amount of money into my business, or that I'm getting a promotion. It's easy for me to entertain that I'm getting A's and I'm getting into my dream university. It's easy for me to think this way because I'm in an identity that supports that. Okay, just like how it's easy for you to not think in your favor when you're an identity that supports things that aren't what you desire to experience, it can be easy to think about what you do want to experience when you're in an identity that does support that and create that as well too. Okay. So do you necessarily need techniques? No. But when you're in that identity too, then it's a lot easier to do techniques and they're more enjoyable. Okay. Um, the cornerstone here though is I don't want you guys to jump too far ahead when it comes to persisting because I want you to be set up for success. Does everybody need to does everybody need to do self-concept work? I don't want to say that. Like, I don't want to say it in terms of a limitation. And I don't want you to think that you have to have a perfect self concept to get what you want. I'm, there are some people that maybe haven't had tons of negative experiences. And so they just need to direct their mind a little bit more consciously. Okay. But I think for a vast majority of people, working on self concept is going to be extremely beneficial on so many different levels that is going to help you maintain results in your life. And I think that taking the wise and sustainable approach, even if it takes a little bit more time to get into that version of you before you're ready to persist, is a good choice so that you are prepared thoroughly and are able to really handle whatever pops up so that you can maintain that mindset where you can handle it in front of you, you're regulated, you're already able to entertain a solution, and you're able to create that as your experience. Okay. That's just my approach. That's what's really worked for me. And that's what I suggest for people as well too. It's not really fun to get negatively triggered and react to things and create a mess and have to constantly persist through things that could have been avoided had some self concept work been done. All right. Breath work has made me so emotional. I cry for no reason. That occurred, I've shared this quite a few times. That occurred for me. That occurred to me when I first started doing it too. And yes, a byproduct of that may be releasing suppressed emotions. So if you've had quite a few negative experiences, and like I was saying, you will normalize a particular state. Okay. So if, let's say, I've gotten hurt in relationships, or there's been a part of my life that has been painful for quite some time. Okay. If that's been my experience over a repeated time, then I've normalized that pain. It doesn't mean that it's not painful anymore. It just means that it's become normalized. Okay. So when you start to regulate in your nervous system and normalize to the point where you may not even process the emotions, you just push them down. Okay. And then again, you probably adopted certain behaviors or ways of coping to kind of balance that negative emotion. Okay. So when you start to regulate your nervous system, yes, you're starting to relax your body, but you're also starting to kind of you're starting to show your body that it's safe. You're no longer in this environment, and it's okay to release these emotions and move past this now. So if you've been suppressing any sort of emotions and you've also normalized a certain state, then as you do breath work, you may notice that yes, those emotions start to release. Okay, it's not a bad thing. It just means that you're now releasing kind of emotional baggages or things that you've held on to that are no longer serving you. And this is also why those behaviors start to drop as well too, because you're not carrying around as much emotions suppressed that get easily triggered. So when we have suppressed emotions, that's also why we get easily triggered as well too. I'm suppressing something, a situation's popping up, it's triggering that emotion within me, that memory, that belief, whatever it is, and I'm wanting to react to it or turn to a behavior to cope with how I'm feeling. When you release all those emotions, you don't get as easily triggered anymore, which you form better coping mechanisms and ways of responding, but you're also able to maintain a level of stability within yourself. Okay. For me, it didn't last very long. Okay. So I think like maybe This was so long ago, you guys. Oh my gosh. Um, I want to give an accurate time estimate. For me, when I really, really started doing breath work, maybe like I wasn't crying. So here's how it worked for me. It wasn't like I was crying all day, every day. It was just when I was doing the breath work, as I was engaging in the practice and my body was relaxing, I started to kind of release emotions. So, and sometimes this would happen without even any thoughts associated to the emotion. I would just start like just kind of cry, and then I'd finish practice and feel kind of relieved a little bit. Um, so it wasn't the thing with nervous system regulation and why this is so beneficial is it's not going to cause you, or it shouldn't cause you, to spiral out into emotions. Okay. Um, if you're finding that like you're getting depressed or anything like that, okay, you may want to get additional professional help, or two, look at how you're wording the beliefs, because they may be too triggering for you. So you might need to take more of a growth approach. Okay. But for myself, when I was doing the practice, I would just kind of cry through the practice as my body relaxed. And then when the practice was done, I would come out of it and move on with my day. That maybe lasted like, I don't know, 3 weeks. Not 3 weeks of like me consistently crying, but like each time that I did the practice, not each time, but like maybe every other time, or like one time a day when I would do it, I would release some emotion. So it wasn't something that was overbearing for me. It wasn't like I spiraled out. It was just like little intentional moments where when I was regulating my nervous system, those emotions just kind of released. And then I was able to move on with my day. It didn't really last very long for me. Okay. I heard that your body has this crazy wisdom that if an emotion needs to be released, it will attract experiences to release it. In a way, I don't like to, I can see that. Um, I think that also comes down to your perception too. Like, our body wants to release these things, but if we don't understand what is happening, like for instance, triggers and stuff like that, right? Your mind is searching for evidence. Like there's a reason why that's triggering you. Your mind's the one, you're the one perceiving it that way, right? And you're the one getting triggered by it. So you could say that your body is trying to trigger itself to release this, right? But most people don't have the cognitive understanding. Like we're not taught how to live in a body. I think that's where like the education system really falls short, is you're not taught to regulate your nervous system. You're not taught like your belief system, or really how to live comfortably in your body in a regulated manner, right? Like that's totally overlooked. And so, um, anyways, the point that I was trying to make here though is yes, you could say that your body it wants to create solutions, right? And so a portion of it could be that you are, attracting in situations and perceiving them in ways to kind of get triggered so that you release this. But if you don't have that cognitive understanding, then you're just going to run to habits or behaviors to cope with how you're feeling and avoid it, which perpetuates it, right? I agree, Minty. I agree. Thank you, Sarah. I have two SPs, both are different circumstances. Do I make two different vision board maps or one general relationship one? What I would do if I were you is get images or one image, whatever. You don't have to do one image, you could do multiple images, but I would get images that kind of reflect the overall relationship you're creating, right? So, like, if that's commitment, maybe it's a picture of two. I don't know if this is like, if you are a woman that wants a man that wants a woman, a man that wants a man, a woman that wants a woman. I don't know what the situation is here, but it could be two individuals and they're doing something that reflects commitment, right? Um, that's what I would do. I would go very general with this in terms of the type of relationship you're creating. Are you guys going on cute dates together? Are you traveling? What are images that you reflect the type of dynamic and relationship you're creating? Okay. And you could just do that on one board. Okay? You don't have to make different boards because it really comes down, again, it doesn't matter either of the people. You have to decide what type of relationship you're creating, what that dynamic looks like, all those different elements, regardless of the specific person. You're the one that decides what happens in your life and what you're creating. Okay, let's see. I've normalized walking on eggshells. That was awful. Yeah, I've been there too. Especially like uh, growing up, that's something that with my mother, I really had a desire to get her into a relationship where she doesn't feel like that. And now she doesn't. So I'm very happy for her. And then also, obviously, in my own life and my relationship too, that's not the case. But it's really, that's another thing where, too, like some of the manifesting teachings or what people say online, like, you know, in terms of don't react, I think is off. Like, you're the one creating your life. You can respond to life however you see fit. You should not silence yourself to comfort other people. But I think you have to take into consideration with that, like, is what I want to respond to right now actually a problem, or is there something unaddressed within myself that I want to project? I think that's number one. You have to really see, like, is this situation worth a response? Okay. And then number two, how do I want to respond to this? Okay. Because sometimes just not even responding at all and removing yourself is more of a response than anything verbal that can be said or done, right? Um, and some things do need a response, or some things maybe it's not actually a problem, and this is just a moment where you have to extend trust and positive assumption. So I think what people have tried to say with the don't react is don't continue to feed into toxicity and assume the worst and project insecurities or negative assumptions onto the people around you. But the delivery of that message kind of has fallen short in the sense of some people have taken that to just don't react to anything if somebody's treating you bad, just silence yourself, persist in the knowing. Okay. No, some things need responses. Okay. Even yesterday's video, members live stream where somebody said somebody cheated on them and now they are acting out. How do you respond to it? Well, like you don't have to deal with that, and you don't have to silence yourself or put yourself into any situation that is uncomfortable for the sake of a result. You can materialize whatever result that you want in a way that feels comfortable and best to you. And if somebody, especially in that situation, like that is just a whole whoever wrote that question, I really want you to look at how you're valuing yourself too, because somebody cheated on you and now they are acting out, and you're still sitting here trying to find a way to organize yourself to comfort them. Definitely, absolutely not. Definitely, absolutely not. They can fuck all the way off. Like you, like they already made the mistake and now they're trying to act out again. No, no, you can remove yourself. You can handle this however you want and know that they're going to show up. Like if you want to fix this, you're going to know that they're going to go through great heights to rectify the situation while also feeling the impact of their actions. And you should not be feeling bad about that at all. Okay. So things like that need responses, right? Things like that need responses. Do we have to visualize, or is affirmations, breath work, and meditation enough? I'm not a very visual, like, I don't particularly love visualization. And so whenever I've persisted in something, I usually just visualize the statement. But again, I want to go back to that point that I just made earlier. Okay. And this is why self-concept is really powerful. When and I this is where I want you guys to see self-concept is key. I don't care what anybody says. I'm doubling down on that, tripling down on that. I will fight for that point for as long as my channel is here. Okay. And my channel's not going nowhere. So I'm not letting that one go. Okay. So let me explain though. Okay. If you don't have the best self-concept and then you're in a situation, you get triggered. You get tons of intrusive thoughts. You get intrusive visuals. What if they're with this person? You're imagining them with another person, or you're imagining somebody else getting the job, or you're imagining bad scenarios, right? And then your mind latches onto one of those things and you keep seeing that visual, or you keep having those intrusive thoughts, and then that becomes your experience. Well, you didn't have to try to do that, right? So if you shift your self concept, then those things should happen in accordance to the things that you want to experience, predicated upon the beliefs that you hold. Meaning, you'll naturally have visuals of like somebody consistently texting you, oh my God, they're so cute. Oh my gosh, I'm getting this job. I see myself getting promoted. I'm getting the natural visuals, anticipating the result that I'm creating in my life. And you're just naturally entertaining things in a normalized manner in your life and allowing for them to unfold. Okay. So, when though, okay, if you're in that version of yourself and you want to use a technique, it's up to you. Like there are some, I posted a story. I'm trying to look for my phone. Anyways, I don't need my phone. On my Instagram, I posted a video of this woman. I think she said she worked for Sports Illustrated or one of the major sports magazines. And she said that Steph Curry visualizes before every single game, right? Now, why for him, that he likes that technique, but he's in an identity that supports that. So he's probably, I guarantee you, he's not sitting here visualizing himself making shots and then wondering whether or not he's going to do that or if that's going to happen. He's putting something in his mind. He's in that identity. He's entertaining the visual. He's, going on about his day and then creating that result, going on into the game and then allowing for that to occur. Right. So if you're in that identity and you want to do a visual, fine. For me personally, I don't really like visual. Like, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it. If I persist in anything, I visualize the statements. So I'll pick a statement that that is whatever I want to experience. And the reason why I do this is because for me at least, I understand or I believe that I can give myself a statement and my mind will naturally produce that visual. Okay. Like that visual, whatever that statement reflects, my mind gets it. It'll generate an image. I trust myself. I'm on board with myself. I'm not going to get super hooked up on the details in terms of like what something, unless I'm very, very specific. Okay. I have done visuals, but I just prefer to do statements. That's just me. Okay. That's not everybody. So that's why I gave that other example. Is there a difference between I am and you are? It just comes down to preference. So, and I've said this quite a few times too. I know there's new people here, so I'm trying to maybe I'll make a video on the membership side for like common questions that are asked because I want to make sure that I'm not just answering the same questions in every video. But it's up to you. Okay, it's a preference. So, meaning some people respond really well to being told kind of from an authoritative stance who they are. So if your whole life you've normalized the experience of people telling you who you are, then it might be easier for your mind to accept new beliefs in that same fashion. Okay. Or you might enjoy I am statements. That's just personal preference. Okay. Do I believe in going back and revising the story? If so, that has worked out for you. I'm not a huge fan on revision, and I've never really attempted it, to be honest, because I think everything happens for a reason. That whatever occurred, there was something within me that contributed to that, and I have always taken the approach of looking back at things and learning from them. Okay. I don't like, um, I, I don't place a limitation on myself. And let's say, because I know people have like asked for grades and things like that. Okay. I've put myself into a position, you can manifest a version of yourself where your teachers will give you the grades that you want. Okay. My teacher for organic chemistry came to me and was like, Dylan, you did so amazing. Okay. I want to give you this grade for this. Should I? And I said, no, because I didn't deserve that grade. I got this grade. Okay. So you can totally become a version of yourself where people will go out of their way for you in ways that they would not go out of their way for other people. Okay. But somebody asked like a grade revision, like I got this grade. Okay. Can I revise it? And my whole thing is like, sure. Okay. I don't necessarily preach revision. Okay. There are people are, and I'm not going to tell them like, if they say it works for them and they have the supporting experiences, then go talk to them. Okay. My thing though is why did you get that grade? So is there something within how you're identified and how you're operating and who you're assuming yourself to be to where you're struggling with these grades? Don't I would rather address that and then materialize a better grade and then not have to worry about grades going forward from that point forward. Like I would rather learn from the situation. So my form of revision is not changing the past, it's taking from the past and learning from it so that I don't recreate it. Okay. And that's been very sustainable, healthy, and enjoyable for me, and allowed for me to really grow from every experience that I've had and not recreate shit that I don't want to experience in my life. So that's my whole take on revision. Okay. Do I still want to be a doctor? I think my desire for that was to help people. Now, I used to read a lot of like geriatric care books. I was very, very nerdy in school in the sense of like, I love learning. Like, I will study for all day. Like, I have no issue with that. And so I used to read like geriatric care books and like quantum physics books just for fun and enjoyment. I know. Now, the reason why I'm saying this though is in a lot of just my own studies, I saw that most problems that people have begin in their mind. Like, I would read so many different doctors talking about giving people doing surgery, doing a successful operation on somebody, let's say like somebody needs a lung transplant or whatever, and then they get it and then they go back to smoking and then the problem comes back. Um, so for me, mindset is one of the most preventative forms of taking care of yourself and ensuring your health, right? So my whole desire for healthcare was, and being a doctor was to be there for people in their moments of need and to be able to help them get better. Mindset, though, kind of catches people before the fact. So if you can establish good beliefs and regulate your nervous system that and put yourself into the position to be the best, healthiest version of yourself, then you get to experience a higher quality of life versus overlooking particular things and acquiring diseases due to lack of care. So I don't know if I necessarily have the desire to be a doctor anymore because my overarching want and desire was to be able to help people in the way that I feel like I get to help them now. How do I stop wanting them to show up and apologize, change? Lately, I've been wondering when it's going to happen. Well, I don't think it's bad to want somebody to show up and apologize and change. I think you got to look and see, like, do you really see yourself as somebody that people do that for? Because if I were you, I wouldn't feel like I'm waiting for anything. Okay, I'd be like, oh, they're definitely going to apologize and do whatever they need to not lose me in their life because I identify as somebody that deserves that treatment and I don't have to wait for shit. I can go talk to whoever I want. I can do whatever I want. And I don't even have to worry about that. They're totally tripping over themselves and can't believe they just fumbled on me. Okay. So that's what I would like. Wants are not bad, you guys. You don't have to stop wanting things. It's just, are you in a version of yourself that supports that desire? And are you able to organize yourself and assume that version of yourself genuinely? Okay. All right. I'm sorry, you guys. I do got to get going. Okay. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about persisting. I'm probably going to be on for longer than an hour tomorrow. I think I'll do like an hour and a half, maybe an hour, 45 minutes. I know this was more of a teaching topic video, but because it is the new year, we did the vision board. I just want to go back and revisit some of the more foundational things so everybody is set up for success with how they move forward this year. Okay. So thank you for being here. I love you all so much. I hope you have a beautiful day, night, whatever time it is, wherever you are, and I'll see you later. Okay. Bye.